title screen. We're still doing mouse wheel stuff, so let's get to it. The first thing I want to do before we get to this, though, is I'm going to try a strategy. It's called Offer Something Interesting. Right? I found this interesting thing on Imgur. Not Imgur. I found it on a Discord server for, like, inspiration. I'm like, what the heck is this? It almost doesn't look real. And I guess this is a bioluminescent bay. And then I didn't know what it was, because it was just posted without any explanation. So I asked members of Real-Time VFX to give me some answers, because I had no clue what I was looking at. And I got some answers, right? So I don't know how to pronounce that. Bahia bioluminescent. It almost looks like that person's French or something. Google bioluminescence bays. They're super cool. Here's a little video of it. And then somebody else said that algae/bacteria in the water that becomes excited by the movement of the water. And then somebody else said algae. So, and then, shameless plug, working on a fractal auto tile engine on Twitch, right? So the idea there is to just make it so that I can, I don't know, strategize, right? So, like, before we even start, because I'm thinking timing is everything sometimes, right? So the idea is that if I post something interesting, give people something interesting, write a nice description, that maybe people won't completely hate me and downvote me when I post this to the community, even though I have a shameless plug, right? I mean, also, my name is Make Games Happen, so, I mean, I don't know what people are expecting, right? But yeah, when I post completely technical stuff on Imgur, I usually get downvoted automatically. I was remaining kind of neutral, where it's like I get minorly downvoted, but you get like a +1 for just posting, so it usually kind of like, I had like a -3 for like 7 years on Imgur. But now I'm posting more like stupid stuff and getting higher upvotes. But yeah, we're just gonna post this to the community, and then we're just gonna keep on coding the stuff. So let's post that. Are you ready? Blah, 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 post publicly, yes. Alright, so we're trying to create a funnel, right? So, okay, anyways. Posted Imgur, and now, it's like, how does that just get 17 views already? I didn't even post it already. Like, why does it have 17 views? Like, that makes no sense. Okay, but anyways. In here, let's give this a run, right? Let's give this code a run. So we want the editor to do 3 very basic things, right? We want to be able to click to set or unset a tile, and we also want to be able to zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, and then we want to be able to click and drag to pan around with the non-primary click, right? The secondary click, or the secondary mouse button, right? So let's load a pattern in here, and then let's try zooming, right? So zooming is, it's going a few pixels, a few pixels, a few pixels, and then it gets kind of exponentially faster because this is the individual pixel level down here, right? So every time we zoom in, right, it's latching to one of these. I don't know if this zoom needs some refinement, but each notch is going exactly 1 pixel, right? It may not look like it's going exactly 1 pixel because this looks like less of a zoom than zooming in here, but it's actually always zooming by exactly 1 pixel, right? Because see that, this is a 1 pixel zoom, and this is also a 1 pixel zoom, but it does seem a little, I don't know. But okay, so let's say we're over here and we click, we can change. You saw that color change a little bit, that color changed a bit. And if we go up and down through the brush size, which I don't remember what that was. I don't remember what that was, so I don't know if I'm going to worry about it. I really want, like, plus and minus to be able to be used for brush size, because I feel that would be, like, the easiest way to think of it. Or actually having some type of indicator of what my brush size is right now would be helpful. So, like, having this region highlight up with a little selection rectangle, this have a selection rectangle, so I know where my brush is, because right now I don't have any feedback, right? That would be nice. Also, right now, if we zoom too far in or too far out, our assertions fail. So the question is, holy crap, what's with that? I thought we had a cap on that. I thought we had a mechanism to prevent us from zooming in too far. And it seems to not be the case. So I want to know how that slipped through the cracks. So why don't we fix that first, right? Why don't we fix the fact that zooming in too far is just not doing what we wanted to do. So in PAINT5D, if you look for the word zoom, zoom camera, right? So zoom camera, PAINT5D, zoom camera, right? And we can either zoom in or out. What the heck is this? Why is this not capped? Is this not supposed to be capped? Like, what's the deal here? Rec Inc. Zoom Pull 256. And okay, so we got this Rec Inc. as in tau type. It has it's called Zoom Pull, so let's go look for that and see if tau type is type's Zoom Pull. Is that properly truncated, or what's up with that, right? Here's the Zoom Pull. And so here we go. So here we see something, right? So in here it says 256 by 256 bounding region, right? And that should be in pixels. So right, so this is called Zoom Pull 512, right? They both call this Zoom Pull function, but one has 256, the other one has 512, right? And for whatever reason, this Zoom Pull function is not properly truncating, right? So here's the rectangle bounds. And the rectangle bounds provided should enforce certain bounds, right? So, right? So, RB right here should be recbow, right? So somewhere in here, yeah, recbow, right? So RB is the rectangle bounds. And we have a thing called enforce bounds. So Rec Inc. enforce bounds. And at some point, it seems to me that the bound asserts that are supposed to be happening here are failing us. Check size before transform, right? So before transform, we're expecting the input to be already be valid. Yes, we're expecting the input to already be valid before we start transforming it. If 1 equals 1, well, 1 is always equal to 1. And we're enforcing the bounds here. So let's just add some more guard code, I guess. At vid IID. So the video right now is 156, right? So 0156, and the time is 0009. Okay. And right, and we're just gonna make a little section here and put this information in it, right? So check did enforce bounds work, right? Because I don't know if enforce bounds is actually working, so we're gonna try to figure out that, and by just putting an assert. Now we already had an assert that already failed, so possibly we already know that it's failing, and so I didn't really check out that assert. But so if RB, rectangle bounds, right? So rec bounds, or actually no, if x0 I32 is less than or equal to less than 0, or 0 I32 is greater than or equal to RB. So, well, hold on. How does enforce bounds work? Because if enforce bounds is this the upper limit? In which case, rectangle bounds and span of the area. Upper bound. If it's greater than rect bound minus 1, so if it's 256, that would be 255, right? Then we're backing off. Okay, I was just making sure that that is exactly what I think it's supposed to be before I start. I want to make sure the code does what I think it does before I start writing these asserts. So yeah, greater than or equal to rect bounds, right? Because, okay. If 1 equals 1, or these things, right? So we got the x0, and we have x's, y's, and 0s and 1s, right? So we're going to do x, y, and then we do this, right? So we got all the values that we want to check, right? And then if that happens, we're going to throw an error, right? So the reason why it's greater than or equal to rect bounds is because if RB equals 256 means 256 by 256, where valid range of x or y equals 0 to 255, right? So a little explanation of like why do we have this greater than or equal to, right? And it's because 256 stands for 256 by 256, right? So rather than have a lower bound and upper bound for x, lower bound and upper bound for y, have 4 different bounding variables. We only have one, right? It's just a square canvas. And so we can do all the bounds checking we need to do by comparing against 0, which is, right? No, the origin is always 0. And then comparing against the upper bound, right? So that can greatly simplify the problem. So if we can simplify the problem, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so if this happens, we're just going to go air, and we're going to call this, I don't know, how about bioalum.mp4? Year 2021, right? Make a note of the thing I saved on Imgur. And then also, well, if I'm going to do that, then I also have to go into desktop, and I got to go into delete me. I got to go find bioalum. I'm going to do that. If I'm going to do this, be silly about it. I'm going to copy this and put it into my archive of videos. So, my E drive, I have a non-vital, NV. I have just for fun, and then I have vids, and then I think I have Imgur. Do I not have Imgur yet? Nope, nothing on Imgur yet. New folder, Imgur, and then we'll just save this as bioalum, right? Oh, did I paste it? So I just gotta paste it in here? Yeah, bioalum. So we're just gonna save that there, right? And then I'm also gonna make a note of that in my shortcuts, so if I want to find it, I can find it. So bioalum, and bioalum. So bioluminescent rivers or lakes or whatever the heck. I don't know what it was exactly, but it's cool stuff, and I made an Imgur post about it. So I'm gonna rename this so I can copy the name and put it into my shortcuts. and open file. Okay, so now that I did that, sure, why not? So I don't really care about the exact nature of this, the exact error message here. We can write what actually is going on in the code if we want. The enforce bounds function from earlier has failed us. Okay, so now we're going to, what are we going to do? I guess we're going to try to run it again, right? And the idea is that dot slash AAC. The idea here is that when we fail from zooming in too far, I'm hoping that this is the error I'm going to see, because I think that something is wrong with the bounds enforcement. Maybe we didn't write it like we thought we wrote it, and I'm surprised that none of the tests caught the problem in the first place. But now we're here, so... Oh boy. I did not expect it to... Did not expect it to get me before I even saw anything. So... I guess let's just... Yeah, so we have this enforce bounds right here, and it's not quite working. And I am shocked that that is the case, so I feel like this might cascade into a lot of problems. And I'm not going to be happy to have to deal with these. Alright, whatever. I mean, if that's the case, that's fine. We'll take the shots as they come, I guess. Let's printf. Alright, let's just print off what all these things are. Oops. Right? And so we can inspect this a little bit further. I am surprised that I wrote a whole bunch of unit tests for this code, and I guess at some point I have failed, right? So if, oh well, hold on. This is wrong. Wrong expression. If 0 equals 1, right? False. Or if this is true or that it's true, etc., right? So, but we already pasted all the stuff in here, so we'll keep it in here, right? So. And while we're here, I guess, why not go to Imgur really quick? And put that URL in here, right? Make meme code. We put the memes into our code, and then we can find oh no, Imgur getting political. I'm getting sucked in. Okay, don't worry, I got this. So images. And I'm waiting here. Is my internet slow right now? Okay, found it. So... that does not look like the post I made. Hold on. Did it collapse my... Oh, no, nope. It's all there. Okay, cool. So anyways, let's go put that into our code, right? So let's go into our code here, and let's just make that a little comment, right? Let's just say... Alright. Okay. So let's put this back at the top of the screen so we can see if anybody's trying to chat to us. And let's give that another run, right? So we have a run where we can see all the information if the truncation, or if the bounds management fails us, we'll be able to detect it. The other thing we really want to know is if things actually get inverted on us, right? So we have this bounds fix. But we don't have... Negative 17419, 511, negative 17419. Interesting. So it looks like for the bounds enforcement, what I think is happening is we've created this enforced bounds, but we haven't done it. It doesn't look like the negatives is being enforced, right? Because I can see 511, 511, right, which is probably for a 512 by 512 area. But then it's not happening over here. So that's like, what the heck? And I know there's no possible way that I have a unit test that's looking for negative whatever the heck. At least not with a function that's enforcing bounds, that's for sure. So let's go look at enforced bounds and see, like, how does it think that this is supposed to work, right? Input-output param. Okay. Enforced bounds right here. Here's the rectangle bounds. We're asserting the bounds are greater than or equal to 1, right? So, some type of positive value. 0 does not count. And, okay, we got these integers here. Cool, cool, cool. And if the value is less than 0, what are we doing? Delta equals 0 minus this thing, right? And then we're trying to add the delta in, right? So if the x is less than 0, or if y0 is less than 0, but what I don't see here well, it's x0 that's outside of the bounds right now. So in enforced bounds, the first thing I might want to look for is, are we sending it back, right? And it does look like we're sending it back, right? So you can see this right here. We are sending it back. And we are loading it in, right? So we're loading it in right here with the int32. And the bounds... Okay. And... well, hold on. Oh. If the value is very, very negative, we're trying to so the correction, it may overcorrect, right? Like, there's a possibility that the correction is overcorrecting, right? So, okay, what we should do here, if we really want to check this, check for overcorrection. So we're gonna check for an overcorrection, I guess. So that same code we had, where we were checking for things out of range. Close that. So we're going to take all these cases here. And I think that there's overcorrection happening, right? So I think that what happens is the bound that gets corrected is okay, but since we're trying to edit both bounds, like, at the same time, I think, because the idea is that as we're zooming, right, we want to increase or decrease the rectangle all the sides all at the same time, and that's why if the x bound is out of bounds, we want to kind of like bring it in on both sides, right? And I think that might lead to some type of overcorrection, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all this and we're going to just check for we're just going to say ERR, maybe an overcorrection. Right? And then we'll, right? Right, so we'll print off all these things so we know what they are. And see if that maybe helps us. And then MAOC, right? MAOC for maybe an overcorrection, right? So we'll just abbreviate it like that. Let's say at vid IID 0156, and I did not think I would have to come back to this code, because I wrote a whole bunch of tests for this, I thought. But now here we are. So after I stub this little timestamp in here for this section, I'm going to redescribe what's going on here. Okay, so yeah, we think that the enforce bounds function, way up here, this enforce bounds function that enforces it the rectangle bounds between the inclusive bounds of 0 to recbow minus 1, right? So minus 1 because if the rectangle bounds is 256, that represents a bounds of a graphic that's 256 by 256 pixels, where the bounds would be inclusive between 0 and 255 for both axes. So we're thinking that this is overcorrecting. And so we're thinking that maybe this logic is working, but then, like, maybe the minimum bound is outside of the range, right? Or actually, no. The maximum bound is outside of the range, and our effort to fix it, the minimum goes out of bounds, or vice versa for the other bounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to say maybe overcorrect, and I guess what we should do, we're going to make debugging variables, and in the debugging variables we're going to create a check for this. Okay. So int32 or how about x0 so we can take all these variables and say was x0 out of bounds, right? Or, right, so we can try to trigger one of these flags for each one of these ranges, right? And then, before we leave the function, we're going to check, hey, are any of these things out of bounds, right? Because this function is supposed to enforce the bounds, so things are not supposed to be out of bounds by the time they get out of this function. So we'll have these checks here, and then we can use these checks in each one of these cases, right? So, let's actually make this, so what could happen is if we zoom too far in, it looks like we're only checking the, we're only checking certain bounds, right? We're only checking the x0 against the lower bounds, and we're only checking the x1s against the higher bounds, right? So that could be a mistake, right? Only checking yeah, that might be a mistake. Video ID 0156, and this is the time. We'll just say might be mistake so that we can fit this all within here. But yeah, that might be a mistake. So we will kind of know as we analyze this with our debug variables, we'll kind of figure that out. How about this? We'll just say x0 OOB right? And then over here, this is y0 OOB. This is x1 out of bounds. And this is y1 out of bounds. Okay. Next thing is, let's make sure that there's one of these for each case that we're looking at, so that we haven't made any transcription errors. So it looks like they're all accounted for right here. And they should also hit the same things here. X's, Y's, X's, and Y's. Good. And now that we have those, we can say, if this ends up here, it'd be nice to know, well, what was out of bounds? What was out of bounds in the beginning, right? Because, so woob for was out of bounds, right? And then we'll take all these values. What was. Okay, here's what was out of bound. And this is is out of bounds, right? So this is what currently is out of bounds. And we got that kind of wrong. Yeah, so we have a, oh, also I need to look at Midori for a second. I need to, I gotta put this up here because it might be a private message that I'm looking at here. But I had some stuff to drop off at a friend's house. We're gonna work on the circuitry for the table design, and I've been streaming, so okay, that looks good. Okay, anyways, close Facebook. Yeah, so we got this little thing here. What is currently out of bounds and what was out of bounds, right? So we're thinking that maybe there was an overcorrection and that's what's happening, right? So now that we have this code, and let's go see if we can figure out what's going on here. Okay. So, is out of bounds. Well, it looks like we need to change the formatting here. Let's do a, so we need a... I want 2 more spaces between this. And then up here I want 2 spaces above it. Alright, make it look a little bit better. But yeah, so it was out of bounds. All of them were out of bounds. And then the correction doesn't look like it did very well, right? The correction seems to have corrected some things, but not all things. So possibly we're initializing the data's maybe I don't even know where this is coming from, so if I knew where this code was being executed from, that would also help. Knowing the original inputs would be nice, right? So and we're just gonna say, yeah, original inputs for debug, and all the same names except, so let's take this kind of block here, I guess, maybe, yeah? Actually, no, let's do it like this, right? And then we can put the NN in front of this, right? Let's try to make these blocks more symmetrical, right? So, and then a printf down here. Okay. And then we can take this, so the debug, oh, also, that's not right. That might help as well. Okay, so we got these debug variables so that when we're looking at the printout, we can hopefully see what's going on here, because I don't know what's going on yet. But just a way to be able to see what's going on. And maybe see, like, maybe there's some completely bogus input coming in here, right? So 9001 and negative 9001 and 9001, right? And okay. So it's negative 9001. That's out of bounds. And it seems to me that somehow it got to the correct thing. It got to 511 for the for one of the bounds, but the other bound didn't quite work. So what's up with that? So at sometimes I think that you can only the delta we're calculating needs to be a delta in reference to the center, right? So this delta here, right, we're trying to bring it in. All right, it's out of bounds on 1. Which delta do we assess first? So possibly the wrong values are going into this. Well, actually, no, hold on. We're still out of bounds. We know what came in, right? It's out of bounds on both ends. Well, actually, knowing the bounding variable might be kind of important here, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of important, huh? Yeah, it is kind of important here. Why don't I have that? So, let's make a note of that, right? So, bound, we need to know what the bounding rect is to really make sense of this. We need to know what that bounding rect is, right? To really absolutely, I think that judging by the result, I'm pretty sure I know the bounding rect is 511. Rect bow, not bow rec. Judging by the output, I'm fairly certain it's the bounds is 512, right? The bounding variable is 512, and so it wants to put it into a 0 to 511 range. And the question is, why is only one of those ranges being properly corrected? And I have a hunch as to why that is, but I want to make sure I know what I'm doing. Yeah, so the bounds is 512 here. Everything was out of bounds. So here's this. I think what's happening is it corrects it for one thing, and then it breaks it for another thing. So what I'm thinking is, right? The 0 is out of bounds here, right? So it fixes the 0 out of bounds, right? And that's good, except then when the but then what it also sees is that the x is out of bounds. Hold on. So let's assume this code fixes it. Let's assume this code fixes the negative out of bounds, but it's still positively out of bounds, right? So it's still positively out of bounds, so it gets to bring it back, right? And it brings back the positive, but that also hurts the it also hurts the negatives here. So you know what we're gonna do? So this code will work in the case where let me think here. Yeah, so that's what's happening. It's the fix on the positive bounds impacts the negative bounds. That's what's happening. So in order to fix that properly, we need to change how we're doing this. So let's say that, you know, 1 is like millions outside of bounds, but 0 is like in bounds, right? So 1 is like millions out of bounds, right? So we subtract from here to get that, actually, hold on. So if we're out of bounds, we're moving everything over. Yeah, because these are the same sign here. If this is out of bounds, you move everything over, right? This is out of bounds, you move everything over, right? This is out of bounds, you move everything over, right? So, if that's the case, okay, got it. Behavior fix. Shrink first, behavior fix. Okay, so the problem is going to happen. Okay, so what's happening here, right? Minus, plus, or plussing both, minusing both. We're not changing the size of the rectangle here, right? And I totally get why we would want to do that, why we wouldn't want to do that. However, if the rectangle is just too big, then we want to shrink it so that it fits within the bounds, right? So, so if x1 int 32 minus x0 int 32, and let's just say let's call this width, right? So call this int32 width plus 1. Okay. And this is the height. Okay. So, and this is y, right? So the larger bound minus the... So we're assuming that these are in a correct order, which could come to bite us in the future. So let's just say, you know, if x0 I32 is greater than x1, or actually, how about x1? x1 I32 is less than x0 I32, or y1 I32 is less than y0 I32. Do we just want to swap it? Because we could just swap things, right? We could just say... Do we just want to silently fix that, or what do we want to do? I'm kind of like saying... It's called an enforce bounds function, right? So, enforce bounds kind of implies that we're going to fix things. We're going to fix the bounds if they're bad. So, you know what? If the bounds are bad, right? Swap if bad order. We'll swap them, yeah. We'll swap them if they're a bad order, I guess, I think. I don't know. I'm not certain on this, but some of our test code may... I want to write this in a way where our test code won't fail us if I am totally crazy here. But yeah, swap if bad order. Okay. And, I like things to be symmetric, even though that may mean that, even though that means a little bit more variables than what would otherwise be used. So I'm going to say we got like a x0 old and we got a x1 old, right? Right. So here's our old variables. And then we just swap it, right? So x1 I32 equals, you know, the x0 old, right? And x0 equals the x1, right? So we have a swap here, right? So we do the x0s and the x1s, we can see the crisscross, right? Here's the crisscross going on here. And I think I'm fine with that. Then we can take this kind of code here, and we can do the same thing for here, right? So if, right, so enforce bounds will also be used to correct the rectangle structure if it's not quite correct. So, so I would rather not do this, but I want to know if it's going to happen in my code. So we will remove this if this fix actually ends up happening. We'll remove it, but I just want to make sure that I know about it, right? So we got a crisscross and a crisscross, right? Crisscross and another crisscross, right? So the Y32, I32 set to the old, yeah, so crisscross across. Crisscross across, right? Crisscross across. Okay, so yeah, so crisscross across. So across, crisscross. Y's, Y's, X's, X's, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. So the 0, 1, 1, 0, right? Because we're flipping what they are. Okay, cool. So I'm good with that. This is kind of like way more complicated than I thought it would be, but let's make a note of this. So 0156, and the time is 55:23. Keep those conspiracies. And we're just going to label this section, right? So we know when did we add this code? When was this code added? And I think that I just want to know that information. I think that might be some information that's good to know. So we will keep this kind of like section here, so that we know when this code was added. So we just added this code, and it's in this video that we did the swap if bad order. Okay, so if we swap if bad order, and then this is the shrink first behavior fix, right? So we got that to fix if it's if the order is bad, but then also we want to shrink to minimum size, shrink without moving center. So we want to shrink without moving the center. So, because this rectangle is supposed to be for a viewport, so as we're doing this, I want to think of the transformation for fixing that would be the most naturalistic, right? So we want to shrink without moving the center. So, okay. So if this is the width, right? So this minus that, right? Is this right? Yeah, x's minus x's, y's minus y's, upper minus lower. Okay, so if width is greater than rec bow, right? It's rec and then it's bounds, or is it bound rec? Rec bow, yeah. So if it's greater than rec bound, right? So if it's like supposed to be 256 by 256, but it's 257, then we want to say F32 delta dx equals width minus rec bow. I want to know how much overflow I have. Yeah? So over x, 4, 5, 6. So the overflow, let's call it overflow x, overflow y, the height, right? So how many are too many pixels, right? The width minus this, right? So here's the bounding rectangle, and after we subtract the bounding rectangle, whatever is left over here is our overflow, right? And this is only for the width, right? So we want to do something similar for the height, but this is only for the width. So if height is greater than rec bound, then same deal for the height. Okay. And now we want an ability to figure out how to inset it, right? So F32 inset amount x equals overflow x divided by 2, and then we want to do seal f. Okay, so if we get a fractional amount, it's better to inset by a little bit too much, right? Like it's way over, we want to inset by a little bit too much rather than too little, right? If it's too big. So that's what we're gonna do. Right, so inset amount equals seal f overflow x divided by 2, right? Because we want to bring in both sides. Okay? And then after that, we just say, what we want to do now is we want to say that, you know, x 0 I32 plus equals the inset amount. And then x1, the upper bound, I32, minus equal inset amount x, right? So now we can steal all this code and we can do it for the other axis, right? So it's all the same logic, except it's a different axis. So if we see an x, we'll replace it with a y now, right? So anything that says x's, we want y's. Okay. So this is going to be y0, I32. y0 is too far left, so we want to bring it over, right? To the right. And then y1 is too far over the right, so we want to pull it back, right? Okay. So that looks good. Let's make a note of this in our video IDs, right? So @vid, right? So it's video ID 156, and the time now. Let's do T for time to keep this 01, 01, and how about 42 so it can be cool. That did not save us as much space as I thought it would, but oh, is this indented? Oh, whatever. Let's not worry about it. Anyways, so let's just take this. Okay, cool. So right in here, right, at this timestamp, we want to shrink without moving the center, right? So we want to look at the width and height by subtracting the upper bound minus the lower bound plus 1, because it's an inclusive rectangle. This is the x. This is the y for width and height. Okay, so if the width is greater than the bounds, right, so it needs to be greater than, not greater than or equal to, but greater than. Because RectangleBounds is like signifies 256 by 256, 128 by 128, etc., etc. So the bounding is not an inclusive pixel location; it actually represents a width. Okay, so overflow x, we take the width and we minus the rectangle bound, we get the amount extra. And then once we have the amount extra, we want to have an inset amount. The inset amount is the overflow x divided by 2, because we're going to inset on both sides, right? And so inset amount x equals ceil, right? Because if we get, if we have some type of floating point value, we want to make sure that it's, it's better to inset by 1 or too many pixels than not enough pixels, right? So if we get floating points, we want to round up for the inset amount. So we're going to make this one an int32. And then we don't want to do an implicit cast, so we'll do like an I32 right here, and then wrap this ceil here. Okay. And then over here, we want to do the same thing, right? So we'll make an int32 cast, and wrap this ceil over here, right? So let's do it like this. Ceil. And then this will be... Oh, hold on. Yeah, like this. Right, so int30 cast ceil f overflow y, which is already a float, divided by 2. And let's make it more apparent, right? Let's do 2.0, so that we make it a little bit more apparent that this is floating point logic, right? And then I don't like the alignment of that, so I'm gonna... Okay, I'm more happy with that. So overflow y, how much are you overflowing by? Well, divide that by 2, right? Divide that by 2, make sure we round up, because we can't have half pixels. And that will be our inset amount, and we'll do the same amount of inset on each side, right? So the 0 is over on the left, we want to pull it in and the y is over on the right. We want to pull that in. So plus and minus, right? And then over here is also plus and minus. Okay, so that looks good to me. I don't think we can do that. Can we do that? I don't think we can do that. I think it's a left-hand thing, isn't it? I don't know how that works. Okay, yeah, so that looks good. So we're trying to pull these in, right? I'm pulling this in, and I'm pulling this in, right? That's what's going on here. Okay. We could remove this extra. I think it's still readable like that. Okay, yeah. So we have some things that we've changed with how we enforce these bounds, right? So if this rectangle is outside of its bounds, how do we fix it, right? And so now, is there other enforce bounds functions that we're using? Like, is this like... I don't think so. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. So yeah, for enforcing the bounds, we're thinking this is like a camera, right? So when we're zooming in and zooming out, we're not changing the center point of that camera, and that's why we have the transformations that we have. So the first fix is we want to shrink first, right? If the rectangle is just too big, it doesn't matter if we move it to the right or left. It's always going to be out of bounds, right? So, so first we're going to do a little hack. We're going to swap if the order of these is bad, right? So if x1 is less than x0 or y1 is less than y0, then we need to flip the coordinates around, right? Because that's not proper, right? And then also maybe we want to do like if they're not fixed. So x, let's make sure that before we exit this section that we know that it's actually fixed though, right? So I'm being paranoid, but it's like we're mucking around in a lot of code, so I don't want to x order and this is y order. Okay. So after we've made sure that it's a proper rectangle, a conforming rectangle, we're going to check the width and height. And if we have a bad width and height, we're going to fix that as well, right? And then what we might also want to do is say, take this width and height here, and check it again. Make sure it was fixed. Let's make absolutely sure it's fixed in here, because I don't want to think it's fixed and then have a problem later on, right? Because that would be bad. So if width is less than 0, or width is greater than recbow. Same thing with height. If height is less than 0, or height is greater than recbow, then error width or height no fixed 2021. Did I say 2020 for that other thing? I better go look for that. And we'll make an error for that, right? So we'll say it's not fixed, the year is 2021, etc. Right? So this make sure fix, we want to absolutely make sure it's fixed before we continue on with our endeavors, right? So make sure it's fixed. Okay. And all this code that we have here, could actually go in a scope, right? So like all this code for this width and whatnot, it could stay in a scope here, right? Because it's not variables we need after this. And there's nothing really in here, but we could do the same thing for here if we want to make absolutely sure nothing escapes out of here, right? Make sure these don't escape. They're already in a scope, though, so I don't think we have to worry about that. Yeah, so this is... We'll fix it here. We'll make sure the rectangle is small enough. Because this backing off stuff shifts around the rectangle, right? This code shifts around the rectangle without changing its size. That was by design to make so our camera code can easily stop. At borders of the world without being the camera being unintentionally squashed. Okay, make a note of that. So there is a reason for why we do what we do, why we're doing it that way. So I just want to make a note of that, right? So video is 1:56 and the time is 1 hour, 12 minutes, and let's do 42 seconds so we can be cool. And so we just want to make a note in this section as to what we're doing, right? So backing off borders. And we can make this like a lighter divider. So we're still in the back off. We're in the start of the back off borders section. So sometimes I like to do things like that. And we can move this together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yeah, so back off the borders, right? And backing off the borders stops here. Right? And if you see this, right, if we're correcting the lower bound, right, we're moving over both the x and the x on the... We're moving over both x bounds, right? If we're fixing the lower bound for the y, we're moving over both of the y's, right? If we're outside the bounds upward, then we're going down on both, right? And that is by design. That's by design. That's not a mistake. So what I might want to look at is I might want to look at x0 and x1 really quick. And then maybe I want to look at like y0 and y1. And I just want to confirm symmetry between these pieces of code. Okay, so this looks analogous to this. This looks analogous to this. And then we can analyze it one more way, right? So maybe we want to look at just the x's in one color. And then we want to look at the y's in another color. Right? And might want to just see that, does that look the same, right? So, yeah, so everything looks pretty, I know we've already kind of looked at this. Like, I've already checked this before, and we've already written test code for it, so we're pretty sure it's correct. But while we have our eyes on it again, we just want to look at it carefully and make sure that it looks correct, right? So, and then we have this extra test right here. So we have this extra assert to make absolutely sure that the value has been corrected before we return it, right? So, okay. So I'm good with that. I think that that may get us out of some trouble, but we may find ourselves failing some unit tests because of these corrections. But these corrections are better. So if we fail some unit tests because of the corrections, then I don't know, we'll have to change our unit test, maybe. So I-32, U-32, U-08, I don't know where that goes. I guess, define F-32 as float might be the best place for it. I don't really know. And that does mean everything has to get shifted over, though, so that sucks. But I feel like it logically makes the most sense to have that float 32 there. If we're gonna put float 32 definition somewhere, I think it makes sense here. So that's where I'm gonna put it. So that also means that we have 6 defines over here, and the first undef is gonna be this one. And we're gonna shift everything up as well, and we see that we still have 6 here, so everything checks out in terms of our checksum for what we defined and what we undefined, so I'm fine with that. Okay, so let's give that a run and see what we got here. And I'm dropping most of my frames, so that sucks. So let's cross our fingers and hope that the code doesn't crash on us on startup again, or if we got something going here. I'm scared now. Fixing, happening, remove me. Okay. So, okay, it's fixing it, but I really would like to know where the heck that's coming from. Like, where is this getting fixed, right? Like, is this like, why? Why is that wrong in the first place? Where is that code being executed from? And in order to know that, I kind of have to know where that's being called from. I have no clue where that's being called from. So before we go any further, I might want to figure out, well, where the heck is that being called from? So one of the ways we can find out where that's being called from is we should have in the silence system. I don't think you implemented that, right? I think we tried, oh, silence all. So we have a situation where we actually want to turn everything on, right? We want to turn all the logging on. So this is not implemented. So let's say, you know, it's unsigned value, or is it? Can we make this a? We could actually do a for this. We could actually make it a signed value, right? We could actually do. We make an IO8, right? And then we could do define IO8. I probably don't have a thing for this. I don't really use this type very much. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we do. Cool. And we could put it here. And did we put that at the top or the bottom? Okay. And then undef IO8. And then we can painstakingly go into every one of these systems and add code that will so here's what we're gonna do. I think that one all logging is on. Right, so it'll be like a super silence, right? Or, well, let's look at this. Silence is 1, a super unsilencer, right? So if silence is 1, then it is silenced. If it's 0, it's not silenced. no one is silenced. Right, so if it's negative, it's like silence, but it's no one is silenced, right? And then no effect / no override. So this will be no effect / no override, right? And then everyone is silenced, right? So if it's positive, it's like an override for everyone is silenced. If it's negative, no one is silenced, and if it's 0, it's not an override for anything. Nothing's override, right? So we're gonna do that so that we need to just look at all the logging code and figure out where that is coming from, and that's kind of hackish, but that's the way we've been doing it. So what I'm gonna do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break so I can. Also, I did all my push-ups, right? I'm about to take a break, but first I want to know, are bots viewing me, or do I have, like, some actual viewer? Never seen. It's weird how I start to see people that I've never seen before when I look at users in chat, and I'm like, I've never heard of these people. Where are they coming from? So I have a lurkers file, so I'm just going to update my lurkers file. And then I will keep on going here. So what is today? 20, 21, 02, 25. And the video ID is vid.iid 0156. And the time right now is, what was the time for this stream? 1 hour, 22 minutes, and how about 23 minutes even? Okay, so yeah, I'm going to take a break, so, because this is going to suck, right? This is going to be a lot of manual refactoring of all my boilerplate code, but you really want to be careful as we're radically changing an important function, so I'd like to not have problems with that. Also, I'm going to take my old chat logs from yesterday, or actually not yesterday, but the earlier stream I had. I'm going to take those chat logs. I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to back that up as well. So that was, because when Luncho was correcting my verbiage on how to spell towards. So, at vid IID 155. That was video 155 that was for. So I'm going to go into my logs, and I'm going to say 155 Luncho, how does you spell it? Towards. Full file path to clipboard. So I'm just saving some logs right now. And it's Luncho towards. Okay. Just want to get things here. Now, do I have a shortcut for towards? Towards. How about towards? Okay. So that's in my logs now. I'm just gonna refresh the chat because I just want a new set of. Oh, hey, well, hold on. Oh, hey, how's it going? I was just backing some stuff up. I'm about to take a. Oh god, I can't type. Yeah, so, I'm gonna take a break, and then I'm gonna get back to coding. So I will, I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back. So I'm gonna put this over here, and I'm gonna start my break timer, but I'll be back, so. You did get sick. Oh, alright. I mean, I guess, I don't know if I'm supposed to say congratulations or not, but I mean, I guess, I guess the important thing is you. I'll be back in like 5 to 10 minutes. I'm just gonna get something to drink. I'll say 10 minutes for now. Maybe 8 minutes? 8 minutes. How about 8 minutes? Because that's a power of 2, and I'm kind of all about those powers of 2. So, hold on, let me change this. Yeah, so offer is open. So I mean, maybe not today, but another day or another day after that, whenever I write code. That's what I do, right? So I already made a trailer for a show on the website. Oh, that's cool. But yeah, if you have something you want to show me, yeah, if you have something you want to show me, I'll take a look at stuff. So whenever you have something ready, just drop it for me, and I'll take a look at it. Okay, so I have a lot of just stuff I need to refactor. So all these little things that have the ability to do logging, we have to take a look at now. I don't want to do this. That's like so much stuff that I almost just want to open up another editor for this. Yeah, toggle tile should actually toggle another tile. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is too many editors. We're gonna take this and take both of these editors and okay, yeah, so we're gonna just take this editor. We have too many text editors open, but we're gonna just go through each one of these things in this list one by one. So this one's special, so let's look at AAC main. And I believe AAC main was like a conceptual thing, right? So I don't know if AAC main is even implemented anywhere. Well, actually, let's go look for that, right? So let's go... that may actually be implemented, so let's find in files, right? So... why is this so hard? It's like, hey, we're just gonna make some... I thought this was gonna be a very trivial piece of code, and now I have, like, all this refactoring work to do. Yes, right here. I don't know what the character should sound like. I don't know. Have you heard that, well, first, back in my day, um, yeah, so, yeah, supposedly it's, like, harder to copy someone's normal speaking voice than than a character voice. For whatever reason. It kind of makes sense, because if you exaggerate something, other people can do that same exaggeration if they're talented enough with their voice. But your natural speaking voice has more subtleties to it, right? Also, I see, who are my users in chat? Uh-huh. Okay, anyways. So, I'm gonna keep going on this code here. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. So we want to refactor a lot of this boilerplate for how we're doing logging. And you got a lot of options for that, for text-to-speech, right? There's a lot of different text-to-speech voices as well. Okay, so AAC main less than or equal to 0. Ask user to pick a color. Okay, so it's in this one place. That is... I don't know if we should... You know, I'm starting to think that we should have just made a... Oh, yeah, that's why. Okay, you know what? We're gonna make a main namespace or something. So why is... Okay, yeah. So, um... Alright, see ya. I'll see you when I see ya. So halt is usually first, and then log is usually second. Usually second. Comes after halt. So the halt function is usually first, right? And the thing that comes after that is a log function. So, paste logging function. Paste log function. I don't even know what I call it. I just feel like I have a snippet for this. Paste logger function. Then also, maybe we called it funk, right? Logging func. Log func. How about logger func? Yeah, we got none of this. I swear I had a phrase for that for, AAC 2020 boilerplate. Let's see what we named these sections. NSSBP paste. Okay, so log after halt. Oh, log is after halt. Yes, log after halt. So if I type log after halt, info any paste. So log after halt use info any paste. Date, what's the date? The date is 20/21/02/25. So all these guesses here, we're gonna make into new shortcuts, and then we'll remember, oh, it's the info any paste that we want to use for this, right? So, right, we'll put all these guesses on a single line like this, and then we're gonna put this into our master shortcut file, so that we can, next time we're trying to guess at this stuff, we can find it. So our master shortcut file is right over here, so we're just going to paste this into the master shortcut file. And then we're going to use it, and we're going to say 489, wrong thing, info any paste. Okay, so log after halt, usually. And do we also want to make a halt function here? I guess why not? Halt is typically first. Typical first, that's probably not going to work. I'll make a note in my shortcuts about that. So when I type something wrong, I know it's like there's a multitude of ways you can type things wrong, but I usually want to spell check myself. I know it's like, why would I do that? But I like doing that. And also, I don't think we're going to have an underscored version of that thing, are we? No. So we got to look for the dashed version. And if this is what we want to do, then we also want to put it in like that. Okay. So 489 paste is the actual shortcut we want. So we're going to do 489 paste. And then we can't actually have this as a message because it needs to be between 0 and 255. So 222, how about that? And then we're going to save it in here and just say it as AAC, hold on, AAC main, so AAC 2020. Or we could call it AAC... we'll call it AAC main like this. And this isn't like our typical functions, our typical sub-libraries. Because it's not a sub-library, it's like the top-level library. And it's a top-level library, and to get this in the code base, this is our main data file, our main function file. That's kind of how we've been doing it. So let's just say in the main function file here, right, yeah, we include all this stuff. Let's just include... Let's include at the very top, this is the function file, right? So at the very top, we're just going to include ./AAC main.f._. So we're just going to include AAC main here. And then in the data file, we're also going to include AAC main here. So formalizing this a bit. So we're going to include this, but now it's going to be the data file, right? So we're just kind of organizing things a bit. Okay. So we got the data file we got this AAC main.data included in the data file, and then AAC main.f included in the function file. Good enough for me. So we can within here, right? So if silence.AAC main if it's not silenced, then we do the code, right? The other option for also doing the code is that if no one is silenced. So if this we should just change this a bit. We should maybe, let's get rid of this weird formatting for now and format it like normal human beings. And so if you're not silenced, then speak. Or if no one is silenced, all right? The no one silenced override, right? So this is like super off, right? So you could call this silence So here, this is silence off, and this is everyone off, right? So everyone off, or silence is off for this specific system, right? So we have to go and kind of like make that correction to like all of our code everywhere. So, oh boy. So I guess as we're doing this, we should probably make sure that we don't we may want to make sure that we don't actually so this thing right here, right? Define log as AAC 2020 AAC main info any, right? And this main entry point undef log over here. Okay. And then we can use this log function in this section. So we have this kind of thing here. And so we're just going to say log. Alright, so now it's a logging function like that. The year is 21. The current year is 2021. So, like, as I make edits, I like to tag it with the year if I can, so I can have a feeling of progress if I ever look at this code again. And when it's 2020, when it's 2030, I'm going to be very depressed by how much older I'm going to be. But at least I'll be somewhat happy with the fact that I've been working on this code base for that long, and hopefully hopefully by that time it's something completely awesome, and I'm like, yay, my life amounted to something, right? So that's kind of the hope there, right? So, I guess we'll hope, right? And we've made a few changes. Also, this needs to be AAC 2020 AAC main, right? So this is called AAC main. And fatal error within this. Okay, let's just make sure that the code still runs, right? We know it's going to crash at runtime, but at least make sure that it still compiles, right? Because we're going to have to do a very big overhaul, so we might as well occasionally check the code to make sure that we haven't done anything completely stupid. So, for example, AAC main.d._ no such file or directory, which is true, it doesn't exist yet. So, AAC 2020, or AAC main .d._ main data file for Romic LSC 2020. Nothing here now. I'm not sure if I actually want to put stuff in here. But we do want to, for consistency, we just want, if we have an AAC main.f, we need an AAC main.d. Yeah, so, like I said, and we already crashed at compile time, so I want to, yeah. Yeah, are we in the same time zone? Yeah, we must be in the same time zone. I mean, you're already... Actually, no, you're probably 1 hour behind me, I'm guessing. Well, anyways, you're already gone, but I just realized it. I thought I read your entire message, but I think I just... I think I just read that. I didn't see that part. But, yeah. So, anyways. An expansion of log. Well, the log function needs a void pointer at the end of it, just because... Yeah. So, a 0. So I'm just doing a whole bunch of stupid things. So... Okay, so fixing, happening, remove me. So this fixing that's happening is probably not bad. I think that's fine, but I'd like to just know where that's coming from and all that good stuff. So we're going to take the time to keep on adding code to all these systems so that we can start to see where all the logging is coming from. So, so this is kind of like a good template here. Can we just make a macro for this? Oh god, do we really want to do that though? Right, so I want to say, like I'm saying, hey, let's save some time and make a macro for this, but then, well, let me think about this. So what I'm thinking is, you know, we make this lowercase AAC main, right? We make it a macro, right? And then we can just include it anywhere, right? I think that macros for making the code just makes it a slippery slope, right? Because the idea is that we could definitely generate all these different logging functions. We could generate these logging functions, and yes, that would be faster, but then the code gets more abstract, right? Because I've done stuff like that, right? We already have this piece of code, it's the same everywhere. Why not just auto-generate it, right? But I'd like to keep my code kind of simple, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to be careful, and we're going to keep on doing this, right? So what we're going to do here is we're just going to say, we're going to copy this, and we're going to make a note of this. We're going to go Control-V like this. And this is the thing that needs to be replaced, right? So this thing right here is the one that needs to be replaced. this is the override, right? So let's go into to-do man, right? So open up to-do man. So to-do man functions. And in here, we should have a logging function, or we might not. To-do man says off. AAC to-do man vital, to-do man maybe. So we did some weird non-standard stuff in here. So show message. Show message is 1, and then yeah, so this is if this macro is turned on, then show message is turned on, right? And then this right here, the maybe, same thing with the maybe, it's the same idea. If that macro is on, then it's always on, right? And that's because if we crash, we want to know what the message is, right? If we crash, we want to know what the message is. So so we'll set the initial state, but then we also want to set the override. So if this is less than 0, right? This is the override. And this is silencing everything. Let's go look at the other code we wrote for a second. Yeah, that's everyone is off. So we don't want to know this one. We just want to know if the override for everyone on, then show MSG equals 1, right? If we're doing an override like that. And we want this override over here as well in this other block of code, right? So we want it in this order, right? So to-do man, if silence is greater than or equal to 1, then show message gets turned off, unless this override is greater than 0, in which we turn show message on. And then always, if this macro is on, then show message is on. If the macro is on, show message is on. And that's just so... we just need it that way because if we're crashing, we want to know why we're crashing, right? So if we specify to crash when we see a to-do message, then we don't want to hide that to-do message, right? So makes sense to me. Okay, cool. So we're still in a good standing here. So let's go look at the other things now. So let's go open up GameTick, right? So we're just gonna go through every one of them. GameTick.functions, and we may notice that there's like not any logging function for some of these things. So it says GameTick logging is off, right? Or GameTick logging is on here. But you know what I don't see? I see a init none. I don't see logging. Hold on. I'm gonna make a note of this. So log second. Okay. So I don't see it. We know that this needs to be here. But we also are saying that, let's change around how we do this. So if this is, okay. If you're not silenced, log, right? If everyone is silenced, hold on. So negative is no one is silenced, and it's an override. So I need to have enough room here. I don't want to call it log because okay, and then this thing, you're 0 plus 1, right? So this is override one way, where we're going to say everything can speak. And then if we're over this way, nothing can speak. Everyone is silenced, right? Right? And then this is specific here. And then in here, we're going to say, you know, if say, then we're going to do all this logging here. Right? So if it's greater than or equal to 1, if say is greater than or equal to 1, then we, I don't know why I have this. Let's get rid of that. So this looks like a better logging template for what we're doing. And string general. Right, so general is it's a string. The specific attribute of it is that it's a format string, right? General of this is that it's data, and the specific is that it's any data, right? Rather than it's not, the data is not an integer, the data is not a string, the data is any kind of data, right? Function info overload. Right, so the function is info and the overload is called any, right? We could just call this func, right? Call it func info and then overload any, right? There we go. So that looks a little bit better. So before we begin, we're going to save this, and we're going to file new. We're going to edit info any, right? Edit info any, maybe? No? Edit info any. Edit info any paste. Edit info any paste. Let's not call it that, right? Let's not do that. Let's not do this. Info any edit. Info any edit. So I already know that these are probably not gonna get me anything. So info any paste. I know that's a shortcut. So we're gonna find what it opens, and we're going to make some edit commands for that, right? So edit file. Also, how about edit log after halt? Edit log after halt. Nope. How about log after halt edit? I doubt that is going to work as well. So we're going to just say barg for bar arguments. And we're going to paste that all in one line. And we're going to use all these for next time that we want to. Next time we want to edit this snippet, we're going to have a little bit faster access to it. Okay. So let's go find where that is. So it's in AAC 2020 snips. So how about AAC 2020 snips? Nope. How about AAC 2020 snips folder? No? AAC snips. AAC snips folder. So I also want to be able to take this and hold on. Maybe we'll find where that's coming from. Shortcuts. That doesn't look right. Hold on. So, Twitch logs folder, is that correct? That doesn't look right. Yeah, that's not right. Shortcuts SC files. And if I take that... Okay, cool. So there's my logs. And I'm just looking at this because for this shortcut, we're gonna say something like this. So, AutoHotkey folder, shortcuts, SC files, this, that, etc. All the way to the snips folder, right? So for next time, I want to be able to find this a little bit easier next time, so I'm gonna shorten this. Okay. And I know I'm like doing a lot of maintenance stuff where it's like, I thought I was gonna do this one thing and now I'm just doing maintenance, but it's better that we, I don't know. Sometimes things just get tedious, but I want to have a good, solid code base, so I'm gonna just AutoHotkey folder. I want a nice solid code base, so sometimes things will just get kind of messy like this. AAC 2020. Where is it in? Where is it? AA2, AAC 2020, snip, and log after halt, right? This is the log after halt function that we're working on here. And so this was the original snippet I had. And from now on, we're going to use a different snippet. Right, so we're going to use a snippet like this. We're going to keep the log after halt, though. We're going to keep all that. And we're going to use a snippet like this. So 17 lines. Now we got more lines. There, 17 lines still, huh? How do we still have 17 lines? Oh, because we just got rid of the padding there and there. Whatever. But yeah, so where the stars are is what we want to change. And can we do like a placeholder kanji? I don't know placeholder kanji. I thought I did. Maybe I just called it placeholder. Placeholder kanji. I don't know what I called it. I thought I had a placeholder variable. But we could use a... Do we have a namespace kanji? I think I have a namespace kanji. No? What? Kidding me. Oh, 'cause it's just called namespace? I have it called namespace K, but I don't actually have it called namespace kanji. Why would I do that? Why would I do something stupid like that? So here, this namespace kanji, U plus whatever the heck it is. I don't actually have it for... I don't have a shortcut called namespace. How about namespace? How about namespace kanji? How about that? Nope. How about namespace kanji? I'm sure that I don't. So let's just go find this in our code already. And we're just going to take this, and then we're going to go back again, backwards. And so with that number, we're just going to paste it in here. And now we have it, right? So for next time. And what I'm thinking is that these stars are kind of annoying because they don't work with my IDE very well. So I think it might be better just to replace it with the kanji, right? So where we need everything to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can't click that and replace it though, can we? It's a little bit easy there. It's not quite easy there. So you know what? Whatever. I think that's good enough, right? It's good enough, right? Because we can... This is lowercase. This is uppercase. And this is lower. So we might want to say like lower. Alright, so when we're replacing things, this is upper, this is lower, right? So that way the lowercase and the uppercase, we don't accidentally swap the cases when we're filling out this template, right? So I kind of like that, right? So this is namespace lower, and this is namespace upper, and we kind of use that kanji as a delimiter. Okay, I'm satisfied with that. Let's ship that, right? So let's take this, and let's just pretend that it's already there. Actually, it is already there because it's in the file. And we can just say, paste this here, right? And then we can highlight this and this, right? And the idea is that for the lower, we're going to type gamtick in lowercase. And then over here, we're going to type this gamtick in lowercase. And then up here, it's capitalized gamtick like that, right? And then we're just going to try to recompile and make sure there's no syntax errors in our template, right? Which there are syntax errors because say was never declared, right? So if we try to run this, it's probably going to complain about say not being declared. And so we'll have to like say, you know, int32 say somewhere, right? So we'll just say like, it doesn't need to be an int32. It could be like a, let's just say int, right? Let's just say int so that we don't have to... I don't want to make a macro for this and put a macro wrapper around this function when it's like, I don't really care. So we'll just say int say, and int say, and just because it's a I don't care what it is kind of thing going on here. Okay, cool. Okay, so now that that's there, we know that the snippet is almost how we want it to be, except we are going to need to grab right here, paste that, right? So int say. Now this isn't completely aligned, but it'll be aligned once we put the correct namespace here. Okay, cool. So now we can just kind of go through everything else and do the same thing, but let's make absolutely sure it's correct before we try to go any further, because if it's not correct, right, if we're manually cutting and pasting this code, we got to make sure it's correct. So if you're not silenced, less than or equal to 0, then say is turned on, right? Oh, this actually has to be 0, right? Otherwise, it gets a random value, and then sometimes it'll log, sometimes it won't. That would be bad. So my bad there. So, right, so right here, that's why I want to double check this, because if we start pasting this everywhere and it's not right, we're going to have problems. So yeah, so int say equals 0. Unless silence is not turned on, in which case we can speak, because the silence flag is not turned on. If silence is super off, then say is always on, and if silence is super on, then say is always off. Okay, yeah, cool. So, we did make a mistake. That this say needs to be equal to 0, right? So it needs to be off by default. So it's off by default. If you're not silenced, we turn you on. Okay, so 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, I'm good with that. So make sure that it actually compiles. And then we'll hit the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And hopefully we haven't made any stupid mistakes and everything works correctly, because it'll be a very, this will be a very costly This is a very costly change, and it'll be a very costly mistake if we get this wrong. So, to-do man and GameTick are addressed. So let's go open up FileBoy. And we could just forget about this thing here. So FileBoy.functions, and in here, do we have a logging function or not? We got like an info string. Uh-huh. And is this being used anywhere, or is it just there? Oh god, it's this ugly, ugly macro. So what we're gonna do here is, I don't want to deal with a whole bunch of this stuff, so... we're gonna say info any paste. We're going to say info any paste, right? And then we're going to get this halt function. That's not what I wanted. Oh no. Did I paste it down here? Hold on. Info any paste. I'm looking at the halt function. Like, that's not what I wanted. Also, this halt function won't even work. So... so this right here is FileBoy. So FileBoy, what is capital? And then if we forget any places, we'll see it. So this right here is lower. So FileBoy log. And we're just going to use this over here, right? So instead of doing all this, trying to recreate this logic, which we already kind of painstakingly kind of figured out for ourselves, we're just going to use info any with the string as just a wrapper for the info any, right? So we'll just take, you know, MSG FMT, and then we'll take MSG INF, right? And we'll just do that, right? And then hopefully that just works, right? So, and then we can also... no, let's not. Let's just do that, and... hope that works. And when we save stuff, we do FileBoy log first, right? So that if this blows up on us, if the parameters in here blow up on us, we'll at least see this, right? So that's the reasoning for that structure originally, I believe. Okay, so we got the FileBoy done. And now we just want to make sure it still runs. And then we'll go on to the next thing. MSG INF. Discards const qualifier. Yes, it does. That is true. So I believe that just means that we have to use a cast to get this to work. I think so. I could be wrong. But I think that we can still call it like this. It's just that we have to explicitly cast it to a... so this const char is still a const char, but it's the message that needs to be casted to a void pointer, right? Okay, so let's try that. Okay. And... I really don't want to do this master override thing for everything. But it is kind of like an easy thing to do for everything, so... what I really want to do is, you know what, I think that, if we turn tau type logging back on, then I have a guess there we're gonna see where this fatal error is happening from. Because I think it's a tau type unit test is making this happen. So I think if I turn it on, I will actually see what's going on there. Yeah, so rec inc zoom begin, right? So it's happening in the rectangle inc. It's happening in the zoom thing here, right? So okay, so that's a good thing, right? So we know that the tau type has unit test functions executing on it. And that makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah, so I'm going to... But I still want to go through everything, I guess, yeah. Or do I? Do I really want to go through every one of these and add the new kind of code here? If we're gonna do this overhaul, don't we want to, like... Yeah, sure, that's fine. Okay, sure. So, FileBoy is done. Let's go look at FexDump, right? So, PNG hex dumper. And this will just give us a nice review of all the systems that are here, so whatever. So once again, we have things that are done a lot differently than... It's like, what the heck? Well, why is this so different? Another system where, right, we thought we could have a nice cut, we could auto-generate all the code, but now when we look at code, we're like, oh crap, there's actually more stuff in here. So, if def includes silence, else standalone. Otherwise, we do the standalone code. Okay, got it. Logging is on or off. Error. Oh, so we already have an override here, but we're going to do, this is, logging is on 0, right? Greater than 1. Yep, everyone's silenced. And we're gonna do this, and then, we want the master override in the other direction as well. Right. This is everyone shut up. And this is everybody scream. Everyone shut up, everybody scream, right? Okay. So, not exactly how I thought I would have to refactor that, but, let's add another, 0156. And the time is 2 hours, 36 minutes. And let's say 13 seconds. Updated. So this is, so this is the original, and this is when we updated it. So we can see, you know, at video 128, we originally wrote this code. At video 156, we added this override that also accounts for if silence is negative, then everybody's turned on, and if silence is positive, everyone will shut up, right? So, okay, that's good. So, let's make sure the code still compiles, right? Because I don't want weird bracket balancing issues by editing multiple files and getting them all wrong. So I do want to compile after every kind of check to make sure that I don't accidentally compound issues. So as long as we're running, right, as long as this runs, then I'm good here, right? And this is happening in the Zoom unit test. That's fine. So now, looking at this code, we can say, hey, this is done. So let's go look at hardass now, right? So go File, Open, and hardass for hard-coded assets. And in here, we don't even have any logging function. So what the heck? No logging function, but it says the logging is on, right? So we're going to say info any paste, and we're going to add that in there, right? In case we want to use it in the future. So AAC 2020 hardass, and this right here is going to be hardass in uppercase, and this one is hardass lowercase. Alright, so bam and bam, right? They're all there. And now we have that logging function that isn't actually used anywhere. Now, did we mark that as such? It doesn't talk. Fair enough, it doesn't talk, so do we even want to add it if it doesn't talk, right? I say if it doesn't talk, let's not add code that we're never going to call from anywhere. That's just going to make things more confusing. Let's just say AAC 2020 hardass info any. None. Doesn't talk. So we'll make a note of it, right? So if you're trying to look for this, you're not going to find it, but we'll make a note of why you're not finding it, right? And we can do that for the other things as well that don't talk. So we see hardass, native keyboard, same deal, right? So if we go into native keyboard, open native key functions file, init none, and then we have some other stuff, and we're just going to make a log after halt. We're going to make a log after halt function, or a section for log after halt, and we're just going to keep the same kind of message here, right? That there is none because this thing does not speak, right? And then this will be not hardass, but this will be native key, nata key. Let's take this whole thing here, copy that, save that. Mark this one off, and then let's go open up the ikeybox, right? So ikeybox has function file here, and we have an init none function. We got these things here. We're just going to go in here and say this thing right here, ikeybox. If we ever look for an ikeybox info any function, we're not going to find it, and we'll see why we're not finding it, right? And we'll just keep on doing that for everything. So open up iMouseBox functions, and we're going to call this iMouseBox. Okay. Key bindings. So file open keybind dot f for functions, and we'll just paste this here, and we'll call this, you know, oh no, let's just call it keybind, my bad. Keybind, not ikeybind. Got those I's stuck in my head. Okay, C editor, current editor. So let's close this and open up the current editor, C editor dot functions, and paste this here, and call it C editor for current editor in focus. Okay, so we got that busy work. So GenoWin actually does have logging functions. So go open up this. And this code's going to look horrible because it's it's older code and it didn't have as much of a defined structure. So about to error message. About to error message. Is there logging in here anywhere? Well, let's just go look for the word silence. Oops. Alright, go find the word silence. So we got like all these different logging messages, don't we? Yeah, we do. So for this kind of guard here, right, a little guard, yeah, we have a lot of guards here. So this is going to require a slightly different approach here. And don't make silenceable because it's the about to error message. That makes sense. Alert messages. Okay. So we're going to handle this in a bit different of a way. And we're just going to say, are we allowed to speak? Are we allowed to speak, right? And if you're allowed to speak, and it's going to be just a getter function, just to simplify the chaos that's already in here. And it's going to be void AAC 2020 GNOIN allowed to speak. It's going to take void, and it's not going to return void. It's going to return like an int32 or UO8. Right, we don't need to take up a whole bunch of room. We just need 8 bits. And define UO8 here. And then we'll undef it here. Undef UO8 here. Allowed to speak, right? So we're going to steal the code that we've been using for other things. So like in game tick, right? We have all this kind of crazy stuff. So this thing say is actually just an allowed to speak variable if you think about it. So we're going to steal this. And we're going to go in here. And we're just going to return say. And it's a UO8 here, so UO8 say, right? So UO8 say equals 0, and then different things depending now. Not game tick, right? So we're in GNOIN, right? So GNOIN, right? So if GNOIN is not silenced, then we're allowed to speak, right? If silence is super off for everyone, then we're always allowed to speak, no matter what the value of this is. And if silence is super on, then everyone is silenced, right? So these are our override states, and right here is for the specific system called GNOIN, right? So we're going to take this, and we're going to do 23 to keep up with those conspiracies. So yeah, with this thing here, we're going to look for wherever else we have silence. Alright, so wherever we see this, we're going to replace it with do nothing. We're going to replace it with if allowed to speak greater than or equal to 1. Right, so if you're allowed to speak, then we'll do this stuff in here, which is kind of ugly, but it's better than what we had, right? Because we got this kind of cruft. So if allowed to speak, if you're allowed to speak, then do this stuff. Okay. And then over here, same thing. If you're allowed to speak, then do this stuff. Greater than or equal to 1. And then we'll just kind of like... Oh, there's some more orange. So for this, we have this guard macro, if we're going to have this code at all. And then right here, if you're allowed to speak, then do this stuff. Okay. And this right here, macro, and then if you're allowed to speak. Hold on here. Okay, so first of all... Oh, I guess this counter might be for... This static counter variable is just so that we don't spam the window, right? So I'm pretty sure that at vidID so counter to so the counter there is just to stop spamming the console. That is what that's for. So counter is for not spamming the console. I'm fairly certain that that's what that does. And let's kind of keep on going through the code and see if we can find any other places where we see this orange. What is nom? Number of messages. If the number of messages is greater than 1, it's a very odd thing to do, but okay. And if you're not silenced. Okay, so we're just gonna do this. If number of messages is this, and if you're allowed to speak. And then we'll just double up that. And number of messages. Alright, so number of messages greater than 1. Oh no, we can't really do that. Oh, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Like that. And then over here we still have some more, right? So boy, we better really make sure that our bracket balancing is correct for all these places we're cutting and pasting into. Over here, it's some more bug hunting stuff. Okay. More ugly, ugly code. Bug hunting stuff. And this is why I don't want to figure out how to fix all this stuff, right? wprintf, like I'm not gonna deal with that. So that's why I'm using this flag here, this function, so I don't have to. Because I do not want to have to figure out all this stuff. It's like, holy crap, the window code has its own runtime bindings. Yeah, so there's like crazy. It's crazy. This window thing is crazy stuff. So, if you're allowed to speak, we talk about this, I guess, for some reason. Oh, custom data thread. Got it. And we don't even use that anymore, I don't think, but it's there. Okay. Okay. And are we finally done? I think we're finally done with the GenoWin thing. So we're just going to look for silence and see where that shows up. So silence is here in this allowed to speak function that returns say, and say is going to be positive if you're allowed to speak. Okay, cool. And only that these are only places. Okay, sure, yeah, that's good. Now that's a lot of edits. That's a lot of edits, so we definitely want to run again, make sure that this still works. And keep on going from there, I guess. Okay, so that looks like we're still going, so cool. Okay, and now let's keep on doing stuff. So GenoWin, DUI is next, so let's go open up DUI. I would really like to change the namespace on that because do I just want to do that now? So we have native, right? Native. So how about call it just native DUI? Native dialogue. How about dialogue? Dialogue is how many letters? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could call it end dialogue. The idea was that it was a very specific dialogue, right? That it was a dialogue and it was a user interface dialogue, right? So it's not like, it's not for message boxes, it's for specific user interface dialogues that, Win32 already has the dialogue, so we're just kind of like using them instead, right? That's the idea for that. So, I think calling it, native DUI, native dialogue UI could work, right? So nat DUI. So we still keep the same name here, nat. Natty DUI, right? So we already have the other thing. We have another thing, right? It's called natty, right? Natty key. We have native key, and then we also have native DUI. Right? So it's native code, right? And flagging it as native code is important. Why? It just helps us know what we would have to change if we were to go cross-platform, right? Yeah, let's just change this now, because this has been bothering me for a very long time. And we're in the middle of refactoring stuff, so why not? So, native DUI is what we're working on. Let's go fix that in some places where it needs to be fixed, right? So, this thing is now going to be called natty DUI, right? Natty DUI. Natadui. Natadui. That sure looks like a weird name. Native DUI. Native dialogue UI. Okay. So, that also means that we gotta go open libchan, right? So libchan bot, libchan tot is gonna need to be changed. So let's go look for DUI, right? We don't have to shuffle things around. We just gotta change the name. So that's nice. So we're saying instead of this, right? Instead of this, we're gonna say nati DUI, right? So we're not then over here, we're gonna change this to nati DUI for native DUI. Just to normalize everything to 7 letters, just because I like normalizing things. And then over here, DUI. Look for DUI here. And we can see it here. So let's just color this really quickly. You're going to put nati in front of this. And we're going to put nati in front of this. Nati in front of that. And finally, that is normalized after all this time. After so many systems. Okay, and then let's see where else we have it. So we got this thing here, so we're going to change it here as well. We're going to call it nati DUI. And we're going to bring this on in. And then this thing is going to be nati DUI. Okay. Okay, that looks good. There is another thing. Well, libchan top, libchan bot. A thing that we don't usually edit is the main file, right? Because we never really have to look at that, but that also means that this needs to be changed. Native DUI, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't even have this, right? So native DUI needs to be changed here. And then let's make sure that, libchan, we edited, yeah, we edited the bottom file and we edited the top file, right? Because editing the bottom file is just changing these. Okay, yeah, so we edited libchan. And so we also need to look at f macros. Open f macros. Bottom and top files. And in here, let's just go look for DUI really quick. It's only here? Alright, fine. Nati DUI. And it's only there, really. Fine. That's fine. I don't care. So what about over here? Is it in here? It's stubbed in as saying that, we don't have any code for it, but we're acknowledging that it's a thing. So that's fine. We'll update that comment. Oh boy. Anything else we have that needs to... I mean, we'll find out very quickly if that didn't go over well, right? So, let's see if... Oh yeah, this is going to blow up in our face. Big time. Because, you know what? We changed the file name. And we didn't change the file name in the code anywhere. So it probably is going to say that, yeah, no such file or directory. So we have to actually, if we want to do this, we can do this, but we're going to have to go into lib and find DUI, right? DUI? DUI is dialog user interface. We're going to say, first of all, do I have anything in here? No, this is just a tooltip. We're not going to do this. Like, it's helpful. I see why we did that, because it's helpful. But, because it's like a big overload of stuff. You're like, oh my god, where is everything? But we actually have, like, master lists of what all this means. And I'm not going to keep explanations in here. I know it can be kind of, like, when you look at the code and you're trying to find something here, you can't find it because you don't know what any of these names mean. But if you don't know what the names mean, then you're not searching in the right place, right? Because if you're already searching in here for something, you should already know what the names mean, or at least the name of what you're looking for and what it means, right? So we're gonna get rid of this explanation file that doesn't really do anything. It's just there to have a name, so I know what this abbreviation stands for. And then we're gonna go in here and we're gonna rename this to nati DUI for native DUI. And this one also is going to be renamed to native DUI. And I guarantee that the code in here is wrong, right? So we got to edit that as well. So let's open up both of these files. And in here, we're just going to change anything that says DUI, we're going to change it to, if we find DUI, we're going to change it to Nati DUI, right? Lowercase though. Nati DUI, and we're going to match case. So, forward direction. So, native DUI, Nati DUI, Nati DUI, Nati DUI. Oh. Okay, and then we're also going to do the uppercase, TU to uppercase. Okay, so now let's look for this. Replace that one, replace that one. Yep, replace that one. Struct, choose color A. Oh my, so we're gonna go find that. Let's put a breakpoint here. Because AAC 2020, yeah, replace that, yeah. I'm not gonna replace that one. We are gonna replace that one. We are gonna replace that. We are gonna replace that. Yep. Man, there is more code in here than I thought. I thought this was just like a simple little thing to get like a dialogue working, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of stuff in here. Okay, so now we're going to look for that one line that's a little bit too long. And let's call it SO1 for struct number 1. Right here. And then, we didn't actually put the struct keyword on it because we were running out of room. So struct SO1. Right, so we still know that this SO1 thing is a placeholder for a struct, right? And try to fit that all in there, right? And the error message that I already had wasn't very informative. So ASS for assert, and oh, this is not ASS for assert. This is an error message. Do I have assert in here? Okay, whatever. It is error for error message, and we're gonna define we're gonna define error as. Let's define error at the very top in case we want to add more structs later, and we don't want to like have to painfully shuffle things around again. So we're gonna go over here and say AAC 2020 native DUI halt, right? Because that's what we name everything. And we'll actually give this one a 0, right? Because we actually want to keep the same names here. Unless we get, like, more and more things, we'll just keep it at that for now. Right? So, we're gonna keep the... This checksum is actually gonna start at 0, unlike most checksums do not start at 0. But because everything after this should be kind of S1, S2, S3, etc., we're gonna do it that way. And we were in tight quarters, so yeah. Okay, so let's keep on looking through here. That was the only thing we had to fix, that we had to do extra fixing, right? Because it was just going off of the, this made everything a little bit too big, so we just did that, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah, so okay, fine. And now that this is addressed, we're assuming we have that in here. So find next, and we'll just replace this. So replace, 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 replace. Okay, and that makes things extra annoying because this right here is the name, and we're running out of room, so we'll just call it NAM for name because of adding that extra stuff, it no longer quite fits. Right, so the return value and the name, right? That's kind of how that works. And it's just like, instead of including the whole windows.h header, we're just including the parts that we need to get this stuff working. Okay, that's fine for me. I think that's fine. So now, that was a lot of crap. So let's make sure this compiles, and then we're going to check it one more time to make sure that we actually added silence code, because we may have not have done that. Implicit declaration of function native DUI halt. Okay, yeah, so we can do that. So oh, I see. So this was, yeah, we'll keep it as an error function. Yeah, that's fine, right? AAC 2020 native DUI halt. That's that right there. Oh, yeah, because the halt function is private. Duh. Okay, cool. So, one more thing before we're out of here. The logging for this. We have silence right here, and we have silence right here. So I would like to just do the same kind of allowed to speak function that we did in the Win32 code. So GinaWin, we had that allowed to speak function to try to like, right, in GinaWin we made a function called allowed to speak, right? So are we allowed to speak? genuine allowed to speak. So we're just gonna steal this. And it looks like we have 2 call sites to this. Right, so rather than having to refactor these and a lot of complexity, we're just going to paste this here, and then we're going to rename this as native DUI allowed to speak. And then instead of genuine right here, it's going to be nat DUI. And then right here, we're just going to say, we can save some space now, because if allowed to speak greater than or equal to 1. I hope I didn't do greater than or equal to 0. Another code. I'm kind of concerned now, so I'm going to go check that out and make absolutely sure I didn't make that mistake. Greater than or equal to 1. And also, this is an if statement. Okay. How do we use this? Do we use this in the proper capacity? Yeah, greater than or equal to 1. Yeah, we did. Okay, cool. Just making sure. So, that's a fine way to refactor it so that now it has the ability to be turned off. So I'm good with that. I think that's correct. And then we'll keep on going through the silence systems until we have every one of them taken care of. Okay, yeah, so let's keep on going. So the native DUI has been taken care of, so now it's GL bindings. So first thing is, let's look at here, GL bindings. Yeah, so not all code has silence code, but GL binding looks like it has been flagged for having some type of code. So it says yes, but I'm not sure. Let's go look for the word silence. And okay, so this is, we always speak if things aren't okay, right? This is a no news is good news versus, yeah, okay, I see what we're doing there. Bug hunt. We have these different info messages. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So, we're just gonna make another allowed to speak section in here, right? So, the same thing that we did with, genuine, right? So, allowed to speak. We had, like, an allowed to speak helper function that we made. We're gonna do the same thing in here. Alright. Are we allowed to speak? And instead of this being genuine, right, this is going to be GL bind, glee bind, right? Glee bind. And right here, this section is touch open GL search paths. Right, that's what this is. So let's make a section for that, because I see everything is already kind of nicely indented for us. So let's, like, categorize it. Categorize the sections we're in. And it looks like we have already done some of that, but it looks like for whatever reason we didn't do it over here. I don't know why that is. But now that is also categorized. Okay, so we're going to take this allow to speak function, and we're going to go look for where we see silence, and we're just going to change it around, right? So here, we're going to say we don't have as much room as we had before, so we're going to cram that in a different way than we usually do. And then over here, okay. Over here. I don't know why I don't keep on taking the same thing here. This is the only place where that's being referenced. And then if we look for capital silence, good enough for me. So now let's make sure that that still runs, right? And then we'll go on to the next stuff. And then this is a feature that I did want implemented, and we're implementing it right now because we're at the point where we actually want to be able to implement it. Because the idea was we wanted to easily turn on logging for everything, so we didn't have to think about, oh, what do we need to turn on so that we can see where the heck this is coming from. And now with this, we already turned on the correct logging and found that, yeah, it's probably coming from this this unit test, right? Because we're inside that unit test at the moment. So, but while we're at it, we don't want to leave things half-fixed, right? So we do want to go through all these little points here until we get all the way to the end of this list. But, geez, this is just getting annoying. But yeah, so let's just keep on going through here. And, GL const functions. And does glconst have code? glconst, and that doesn't. So we actually want to go down to graquad. Okay, graquad dot functions. And this looks like some older code, so we got, like, info functions, silence and silence. Never silence this message. Okay. So, yeah, rather than work, yeah, so we're gonna keep on going with that, the allowed, are we allowed to speak function. We're just going to keep on using that in a lot of spaces just to make this easier on ourselves, right? So before the info function, I don't think the alert function is, we don't want to silence about to error, and we don't want to silence the alert function. So, but the info function can be silenced. So we're going to put allowed to speak right here. And then instead of this being glbind, right, instead of this part being glbind, it's, we're in a graquad, right? So we're going to call this graquad And then this is going to be capitalized quad. And also, holy crap, have we been pasting this timestamp? Maybe we have, yeah. So we've been doing this a lot, so let's actually make a snippet for this, right? So, we're gonna put this here, and then we're going to say, namespace -k for namespace kanji. And this is, so this needs to be the lowercase, and this needs to be uppercase. Okay. And let's just save this in AutoHotkey folder. Shortcuts, SC files, snip. I'm gonna go to bed soon. Or AA2. So we're going to make a shortcut for that. So it's called Are We Allowed to Speak? Or Are We Allowed to Speak a watts? A watts paste. And we'll paste the file. But yeah, I am getting tired, and I don't want to make horrible blunders while I'm doing this. So we may just... Let's get this part working first before we bail out of here. Right, so we got this allowed to speak thing, right? And we're going to look for where we find the silence function. And we're just going to... Or the silence call right here. So this thing, right? So... Right, so if this is turned on, and then over here, same thing. If this is turned on, okay. Okay, that's fine for me. Okay, so we're gonna make sure this still runs, or we're gonna make sure it still runs, or still compiles. And, still have the same problem we had, but we're going to keep on, fixing this. Okay, cool. So yeah, I do realize that it's 2 a.m. and I have to do stuff in the morning. Yes, I can't be staying up too late. Too many text editors, too many text editors. So in our to-do, we'll make this 3 a 4, so we can make a new 3. And, we're just gonna say, add new silence, refactor all silence code. Okay, so we need to do that. And we are at frag bed. Start with frag bed. And work way down. Silence. Okay. So that's kind of what we're doing, right? But let's get out of here. So, let's make absolutely sure it can compile, and then we're just gonna get ready to just be out of here. Because I feel a little bit tired. I feel like if I keep on doing this, I'm gonna make some stupid mistakes. So, clear, get status. Right, we're modifying a lot of stuff. Git commit -am broken commit refactoring for silence. Yes, I'm refactoring for the silence override there. So git status, git push, GitHub master. This is not an acceptable commit to push up to Kanji Coder, so we only push up to Kanji Coder when the code base is in a stable state. So not in a stable state, so we're not going to do that. Video 156, and we find ourselves refactoring rectangle and silence refactoring is what we're kind of doing. We're still technically on the mouse wheel section, but we've found ourselves refactoring stuff. So we'll keep on going through here and taking care of that. And then, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream. And I'll be back on another day. Alright, later.